Hey, how's everybody doing? All right, so today I want to talk a little bit about a project I put on GitHub earlier, and yes, it is yet another application starter kit. This one's for the ArcGIS API 4. I've been kind of working on this for a while. It's got some, I think, some pretty cool stuff in here, and it's just really basically a starter kit that you can use to get up and running to get a application going pretty quickly. Yeah, that already includes a lot of different features. All right, so you can see there's some screenshots here on GitHub. The actual colors are different now in the app that's published, but it's using service worker, app cache, manifest JSON. It's got some default icons built into it that you can use, and just replace the icons with your own icons, and you're good to go. One thing I am having issues with, which I don't know uh, quite how to fix at the moment, is adding it as a button to the home screen. If you're using authentication, I can't get that to work at the moment. I have to kind of rework how I do the authentication on this app. And the app as it sits right now doesn't require authentication. The web map that it uses for the demo purposes is not secured at all, but it does have a sign-in button and stuff that mimics what authentication would look like. So you still sign in, but it doesn't really need it for anything. So okay, so real quickly, let's check this out. What's it got? Basically, the whole thing uses for build tooling npm scripts. I am not using Gulp or Grunt or Webpack or anything like that. Sometimes you just don't need all that stuff. But I like using npm scripts because it really just kind of lets me shove another build step in wherever I might need it, which is really cool, and it comes in very handy. And I found that when I was using Grunt and even Gulp and stuff like that, is I was just kind of injecting my own little scripts to do stuff in between different steps of the a Grunt task or a Gulp task, something like that. And I was like, oh, why even bother? That's what all I'm doing. And I don't need Webpack. I mean, not everything has to require Webpack. I could have done the whole thing with Webpack and it'd been fine, but my Webpack config would have been ridiculous. So anyway, what's this thing got? So basically it's got build steps for development and production. You basically just run npm watch, and it's going to use this watch thing here to watch these different paths, and it's going to run those particular tasks or scripts when those paths are changed. It's got scripts in here to do code coverage and testing and everything, which works out really nice. It uses prettier to prettify your code, right? So you don't have to worry about formatting and stuff like that. Not, prettier does some weird stuff, I think, especially when it comes to decorators that I don't quite agree with, but I don't have to worry about it, so it's not a big deal. I also run TSNet with a fix flag so that if there's anything it can fix, it will fix it, which is kind of cool. And the whole app is written in TypeScript, right? So just to give you an idea, if you've watched some other videos, you've probably seen some of this stuff in here as well. But I've got my app in here, everything written up in TypeScript. You can see the authentication widget that I've probably shown you guys plenty of times so far is in here as well. I've got using an application store in here. So I've got an app store that I'm loading in here. It's just the stuff I was talking about that Prettier does. I think is a little weird on my property here. So if I've got this decorator here, it puts it next to it instead of under it. And it only does it if there's nothing in the function call for the decorator too, which yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know where they came up with that style, but okay, it's cool. So it's got a bunch of stuff in here. It's got a little sample of how you could bring in third-party APIs to applications. So I've got this source under sources here, and this is built so that it will handle different kinds of API requests, right? And it's got just a little check to see how it should handle that request, and then it runs everything through a serializer. The default is to bring back just the raw data, but you can also extend that source file, that module, and just go ahead and create a new serializer. In this case, I'm going to serialize the data to come back as a feature layer. So I just have a method here. It's going to parse my data out as a layer for me. And it's got code in here for the serializers and how this works. And you see kind of how I might do something like that. Again, this is all just it's my opinion of how you could build an application with the JavaScript API. There's no hard way saying that you have to build it this way. I'm just saying this is how I like to do it. I found this to be pretty cool. It uses post CSS for the CSS itself, so that lets me do some nice CSS next kind of stuff like this root for variables in here and be able to bring those in, use them inside of my CSS code, which is kind of cool, right? And I can do nested media queries here for different things. So okay, so I get all do that pretty cool. So play with that. The public folder is basically anything that isn't your code, that is not application code itself. So it's going to have the HTML files. It's got a 404 file, OAuth callback, got the manifest JSON, and I even got a app cache in here as well. And the app cache, I get dinged on my Lighthouse score for having an app cache, but um, Safari doesn't support service workers, and neither does Internet Explorer. So what am I supposed to do, right? So service worker here, and I could probably update the app cache too, but it does have a service worker included, and this is really all experimental at this point. I am still playing around with it. I do have a warning on the README that if you're using service workers, just to be cautious of being too aggressive with it, in that you're not going to get. I mean, it's always going to come. The data is always going to come from the service worker after you've run it. So if you've got data and feature services that changes often, you may not want to use a service worker for that data because you're never going to get the updated data by using the service worker that way. So you can play around with the service worker, try and get it working. I'll try and do some more feature work on the service worker, maybe get some options. There's some tools out there for service workers to help you build them and stuff like that. I kind of played around with them, but I had already kind of written out the service worker to do what I wanted it to do. So I'll play with that some more. But the idea here is to have that application shell up and running and everything. That basically, if you look at the index HTML, I've got as much code and as much UI built out of it as I can possibly get before I load my map, right? So that's the key there, is to get that up and running pretty quickly. So I'm not just showing a plain white page. I want to actually have something on the page available for someone to see. Okay, so what does the application actually look like? I have it up running here on Firebase somewhere. You can see I've got the service worker cache going here. So I can log in. It's going to bring up my little login window. Just go ahead and click approve there. It's bringing my web map. My pop-ups here and everything's responsive. I got my nice little expand widget doing what it's got to do. I'm a big fan of that. You know that. And if I look at the network traffic here, let's just look at JavaScript files. Let's go and refresh it here. You can see that everything's coming from the service worker. All right, CSS, the service worker. Images coming from the service worker. No media. Fonts coming from the service worker. Pretty much just about all that stuff is coming directly from the service worker. So again, play around with this. Try out some different things. And again, I do stress this is not a standardized way to build your apps. It's simply kind of a way that I've worked out that I kind of like to do it. I may change this down the road in terms of how the application is structured and stuff, but so far this has been working out pretty good for me to get some prototype stuff up and going pretty quick. Thanks a lot.